We're here at the opening day of the Libertarian Party National Convention, trying to figure out who will be the third nominee on all 50 ballots in the United States in November. Gary Johnson, John McAfee, and Austin Petersen are widely seen as the three most likely to contend for that. Austin Petersen joins me now. Thank you, Austin, for coming in and joining us. I want to start by asking you a question that I've asked everybody here, regardless of whether they're a candidate or a delegate, but it kind of speaks to what we're all doing here, which is, what should be the Libertarian Party's goal in a presidential campaign? What's the purpose? And why do you best fulfill that purpose?
More than 1%, I think. We want to see progress. That's what we'd like to see. But what would be amazing for me is to try and trigger the 12th Amendment. Let's try and throw this baby into the House. Let's go for a real win. Let's be strategic. Let's be smart. Let's try and move the ball down the field. You can try the long pass, or you can move the ball down the field with short little passes.
So what would be a state that would be in play that you think?
Potentially Missouri. I did really well in the primary there. I'm well known. I'm loved there. I have a community of people who support me, and I'm kind of seen as a favorite child of the Midwest by my hometown. So potentially there. Also Utah might be a good one there, where a more pro-life, pro-constitution candidate might do well. Ted Cruz had a lot of support out there, and a lot of those people have jumped onto my campaign. Mormons are very libertarian, so perhaps that might be a good place for us to go and try, because Trump didn't do that well out there, right. So that might be the place to go.
I've been having people confront the various detractors on Twitter, and one guy said about you, he has the same resume as some interns that work in my department. Can you walk us through, not the objection of that, but actually walk us through your history in the libertarian movement and related organizations and kind of your origin story?
Sure, yeah. I may be the youngest candidate, but I'm the longest party member, and I've been the longest activist for the libertarian cause specifically. So I started out as a street activist in 2007. I would walk from subway car to subway car with Ron Paul's book, Foreign Policy of Freedom, and I would read Ron Paul's speeches to the subway citizens. And
now, just to interrupt here, did you like wake up one morning and read this book and it transformed your life, or like how did you get involved with Ron Paul?
I was inspired when I saw his debate with Rudy Giuliani, and I was paying New York City income taxes, and I was upset. So I wanted a candidate that I could support. And when I saw Ron Paul sort of smack down Rudy Giuliani on foreign policy, it was sort of an awakening moment. And I went downtown Manhattan, and myself and 12 other gentlemen turned that an old nightclub into a 1,200 person strong organization. We raised $1 million for Ron Paul, and then I got a job with the Libertarian Party thanks to that activism. I'm very good at organizing. I'm kind of the community organizer for libertarians, and I build online communities, mostly digital communities of people who are of like mind. And what I learned was that the libertarian movement, when unified in purpose, is very powerful. So while I was working at the Libertarian Party, I put together a memo with the internship staff that I created, how to get libertarians on TV. Judge Napolitano, who was another person who I was a great fan of, had a little podcast on Fox. It was just a little digital thing. And so I stood up one day with David Lowe's at a meeting, and I said, David, let's get the judge's own show. And that was successful. So I launched a show on Fox Business from outside of Fox, and I became the judge's producer. He called me the right side of his brain. And I learned everything that I know about the Constitution from the judge, and kind of fought in the trenches beside him as his A1 producer. And I've only grown and learned more and more every single day. I think that I'm probably the most ideological libertarian in the race, other than perhaps Darryl Perry. So he represents very much the anarchist faction. I represent the minarchist faction. And I think that I'm the best person to carry these ideas forward, because I can articulate them to the American people in a way that isn't quite as off-putting perhaps as some of our approaches in the past. And I'm not seen as sort of like just a pie in the sky, hi governor, from New Mexico, where people look at him and say, is he here? Is he awake? Is he asleep? And they see me as energetic and exciting and ready to lead a movement that I had started on the streets of New York City, back from Kansas City into Washington, D.C.
Your pitch has been largely to Ted Cruz voters. It's been to Rand Paul voters. It's been, Mary Madeline gave you an endorsement. People who are not actually necessarily traditionally Republicans. Are you sort of in that kind of, if John McAfee is Donald Trump in the libertarian race, Gary Johnson is, I don't know who we want to say.
Romney.
Who is Austin Petersen? Like What's your play?
Well, it's a combination of Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama in a sense.
You know, I was not really seeing the Bernie Sanders, to be honest with
Well,
you.
I'll tell you why, because it's my donor base. You know, I'm the grassroots candidate. I'm the one that thousands and thousands of people are sending their money in their change jar to. I started this campaign mailing bumper stickers and licking stamps by myself, and now I have marshaled the full might of the grassroots of the libertarian movement, because I know how powerful they can be. And when they have someone that they can believe in, that they know represents them, they're going to go out in the streets and they're going to do the same thing that I did 10 years ago. And I know how powerful that can be in recruitment. So that's what I'm trying to do. But when it comes to Obama, why am I the Obama of the race? Because if it's Obama versus Romney, and if Johnson is Romney, the solid Republican governor, kind of squishy, is just seen as a moderate, I am the fiery, hopeful, less experienced, radical, who can give hope to the American people. And that's what people want. You know, when it comes to experience, if you think experience matters, well, remember, Romney was much more experienced than Obama. And that's why Red State, that's why National Review and many other conservative leaders are looking at me and saying, well, if we wanted someone with experience, we'd go with 2 Republican governors. Instead, we want someone that represents our principles. They're not quitting the Republican Party out of spite or sour grapes. They're quitting the Republican Party because they believe in something. And generally, that's the Constitution. Generally, that's limited government. And that's what I appeal. That's why I appeal to them, is because they know that I mean it.
Traditionally, the Libertarian Party has been pro-choice in its platform. I know they're deciding on this on Saturday, which I think is when this video will run, so we don't know the outcome to that. Could you be the nominee of a party who has a position on abortion that you disagree with?
Technically, what the platform change has been proposed as is one that I don't disagree with, because what it states is that people can have dissenting opinions on this. The government should never fund abortion like Governor Johnson wants us to. And it says that we believe in over-the-counter birth control. So I completely agree with the proposed platform change on this, and that's not pro-choice. That is one that could accept either prescriptive policy. So to me, I think that we as libertarians can disagree on this. I changed my mind on this issue, and it was Ron Paul that convinced me, and Judge Napolitano being this solid Catholic, and Ron Paul being a baby doctor. It's very hard to argue against someone who will tell you from firsthand experience what it looks like to see an abortion. And when you are trying to put together the secular argument, the secular pro-life argument, you realize there are a few rare unicorns of people out there who don't make a religious argument for why it's a life. There's a scientific argument for it, and I studied it, and I'm trying to construct what I believe is the most moral, virtuous ethic. And if I believe libertarianism is right because it is virtuous and moral, then the pro-life position to me makes sense, because if we're going to make a mistake, like the death penalty, we should make a mistake on the side of life. And that's why I have sort of adopted the consistent pro-life ethic. And that does make me a bit controversial with conservatives who are like, well, we like your pro-life stance, but we don't like the fact that you're against the death penalty. But again, when I decided to run, when I was just a little nobody with my blog, I said to myself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it hardcore, I'm going to be 100% myself, I'm going to say everything that I believe, and I'm not going to be totally transparent about what I believe, and I'm going to see if people come to me, and they have.
You're a creature of the internet, so you kind of grew up bathed in everything inside of it. Should you win the nomination, should you get on stage with Hillary Clinton will have opposition researchers looking for everything that you've said and done online. Surely you have said and done terrible things online. How will you deal with it?
Well, we all have. I mean, being 35 years old, everyone who is my age or younger will one day just run for president, and everything that they have seen, every photograph that they have is going to go out there. And if anything, that might actually be good for libertarians, because it's going to finally get some of the old prudes off of the vote who are saying, oh gosh, well, if Austin said this, then, and he's actually a good boy, maybe we all have indiscretions from time to time. But I never got anybody killed in Benghazi. And Donald Trump has said some pretty horrible things about women. And one of the biggest criticisms of me has come from a radio interview that I did with a gentleman where I said all kinds of bad words. And when I did, people forget the context of it, because they said, oh, Austin said a bad word. The context was that I was defending a woman who was the victim of revenge porn. And so when people realize the context of that, they'll see that I am not a hateful misogynist, that I do defend women, and I do believe in liberation of women, I believe in equal rights for women. And I'm one of the only people that goes out there and says, I actually think women should be in the military if they can pass the test. And so sometimes you don't make anybody happy with who you are or what you are. But you've got to, character does matter. But if you think that the founding fathers were Puritans, you got to understand, they said some nasty things to each other while they were campaigning. John Adams had the filthiest mouth you could ever imagine when he talked about Alexander Hamilton and the secretions. It was a nasty thing. Rough men built this country, and you've got to be a little rough and tumble in order to fight to take it back.
What would failure look like for the Libertarian Party in November? What is a numeric level, a psychic level? If they don't get beyond that, they will have missed an opportunity.
I think probably the same as they got last time. That's why I'm running, is because I was nervous that there was going to be a half effort. So I decided to run to champion what I thought was excellence in campaigning. Because I never do something half measured. I always fight as hard as I can. So I thought if it was another repeat of the ticket that we had last time, we would get the same thing we got last time. The definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing, expecting different results. So I said, hey, let's shake it up. Let's make it a little more wild, a little more fun, principled, and still professional. That's the thing. Still professional. Fun, wild, professional, youthful, vibrant, exciting. And that's how you build a revolution nowadays. And so far, so good.
Should you lose on Sunday, would you endorse the winner?
Absolutely, yes. See, I've worked too hard to grow this party and this movement to throw it all away for some hissy fit tantrums because I'm losing. I lose all the time. I have all kinds of things that don't go well for me. Sometimes, a business deal doesn't go right, and I don't throw in the towel. You just keep trying. And to me, Governor Johnson, he's not ideal, but he's a good man, and he's done a good job as a governor of New Mexico. Don't care for his VP pick, but I can live with him. Gosh, if it was Gary Johnson versus Trump or Hillary, I'd be living in a much happier world. But yeah, I'll totally endorse Governor Johnson if he wins. McAfee too might be more fun, actually. We could be a little more wild. Yeah, I put so many people in positions of this party where they are now proud and happy. And I feel like I would feel like I was abandoning them, and I won't do that.
Very good. Awesome. Petersen, thank you very much for joining us. For Reason TV, I'm Matt Welch.